This is KSL Sports Live, broadcasting from the Mountain Home Services studios.
Hey, happy Saturday, friends. The countdown continues here on KSL Sports Live. We're less than 3 weeks until the NHL and NBA drafts. The Jazz just hired a new president. What role will Austin Ainge play in what the Jazz do with the 5th pick? We'll talk about that with Jazz insider Ben Anderson coming up. And Mammoth insider Cole Bagley will also be on the set to break down their options with the 4th pick in the NHL draft. A BYU distance runner is crushing national records. Coco Gauff is going for a French Open title, and the best from today in the big leagues all coming up. But we'll start this party off in the world of lacrosse. Now, why is that? Well, Utah's home to the 2-time reigning Professional League lacrosse champions, the Utah Archers, a team that has a knack for the dramatic and the very exciting. Last week, they began their title defense with a 1-goal win that featured a no-look behind-the-back goal from Dyson Williams. Today, back on the field against the Boston Cannons, who also won their season debut last week. Bryce Ford, the 32nd pick in this year's draft, making his debut just 5 days after playing in the NCAA title game, scores his first career goal. Utah's trailing 5-3 at the half. Third quarter, back-to-back goals by Dyson Williams. He would tie the game up at 5. Then later in the third, Boston's Asher Nolting, with his shorts falling down, makes the assist to Jonathan Donville. Cannons now up 7-5. Then in the fourth quarter, King, a great feed to Crease Fields for the equalizer. Then Dyson Williams, he delivers the hat trick for Utah to give the Archers the lead with under 3 minutes to play. Boston rookie Ben Ramsey picks up the ground ball here and takes it all the way for his first career goal. That one tied the game at 8. Final seconds here of the game. Cannons on the attack. What an ending here.
Only 5 on the shot clock, 5 on the game clock. They got to go quickly. Holman diving! Does it count? It does! Marcus Holman with a Superman goal!
This time, Utah's on the receiving end of the amazing goal. Marcus Holman with 1 second left on the clock, handing the Archers their first loss of the season. All right, quick. Name the top 2 teams in Major League Baseball. Be honest. Did you say the Tigers and the Cubs? Because those 2 teams, they've been on a roll so far this summer. The Tigers with 42 wins and the Cubs with 40. Is it too early to say this weekend's series could be a World Series preview? We have tons of baseball left to play. The Tigers won Game 1 in this 3-game series at Comerica Park. Today, Game 2, Cubs get started early. Seiya Suzuki, solo homer in the first for the 1-0 lead. Top 5, the Cubs get 2 more thanks to another long ball. Michael Busch, his 10th of the season. It's 3-0 Cubbies. Then in the 8th, Suzuki does it again. His 2nd homer of the game. All of the Cubs' runs came from 5 home runs. They get the win 6-1. The Cardinals were hosting the West Division leading Dodgers. Bottom 8th, still no score in the game. That's when Alec Burleson chops one back to the box off the pitcher. That's an infield single now. Check this out. Mason Wynn decides to go home, beats the throw, gives the Cards the 1-0 lead. Dodgers tied it up on a wild pitch. Then in the bottom of the 9th, Nolan Arenado with the runners on corners. Left fielder was playing in on the dirt, and Nolan skies one to left. That's your walk-off winner. Cards take it 2-1. In Minnesota, the Twins hosting the Blue Jays. Bottom 6 tied at 2. Matt Wallner at the plate, taking the lead. Solo homer puts the Twins up 3-2. But in the 8th inning, Toronto takes the lead for good. George Springer, his 10th home run of the season, is a 2-run shot to left, and the Blue Jays get the win 5-4. They're 5 games back of the Yankees for the lead in the AL East. The Utah Jazz have a CEO, Danny Ainge. They have a general manager, Justin Zanuck. And they have an ambitious owner who wants to win, Ryan Smith. And that owner, he had a hole to fill in the front office staff as the Jazz prepare for one of their biggest off seasons in franchise history. This week, Smith announced the hiring of Austin Ainge as president of basketball operations. Austin, the son of Danny, played college basketball at BYU from 2003 through 2007. In 2009, he joined the Boston Celtics staff as the head coach of the D-League team, the Maine Red Claws. He worked his way up from that spot to assistant general manager, spending a total of 17 years with the Celtics. Austin has become one of the up-and-coming executives in the NBA after helping the Celtics reach 6 Eastern Conference Finals in 8 years, 2 NBA Finals, and they won a title in 2024. Now, he's the new man in charge in Utah.
really believe it's just stacking good decisions, one on top of the other. And, you know, a lot of times people see the big trade or the, you know, big move, that big free agent signing or something as the end, but really that requires lots of diligent management to build up to that point.
Even though Justin Zanuck has been with the Utah Jazz for more than a decade and Danny Ainge has a wealth of successful experience at the NBA level, it's Austin who has been given the keys to the car in Utah. He will have the final say on all decisions as the Jazz move on in this next phase of the rebuild.
For us, Austin will be running the program. He's got final recommendation to myself on any decisions that need to be made. I think it's the job of both Justin, Danny, and myself to kind of plug into him.
Well, the worst part of the rebuild has been seeing this franchise dip to the lowest of lows it's ever experienced before. A single-season franchise record, 65 losses this last season, all part of that strategy to get the best possible pick in the upcoming draft. Is that something the Jazz would be willing to endure again next season? Austin's answer was to the point.
You won't see that this year.
All right, and what better way to continue this conversation about Austin Ainge and the Utah Jazz future than bring in our Utah Jazz insider for KSLSports.com. It's Ben Anderson. Ben, thanks for joining us again this week.
Happy to be here.
Yep, we got a lot to talk about. I mean, we just listened to Austin talking about how, you know, with the manipulation of rosters, you know, however you want to say it, they're not going to do that anymore. He's been given the keys to have the final say in all decisions Utah Jazz. First of all, I want to get your take on the hiring of Austin Ainge to be put into that position, and then his response to that question about tanking or not tanking, or how do you interpret it?
You know, I guess seeing an Ainge come in is not super surprising because of where Danny is and what Danny's been doing for the Jazz now for 3 years. So in that sense, it's not surprising, but we didn't really know there was a president of basketball operations job open for the Jazz that Ryan Smith said they were trying to fill. So by that view, it's a pretty big hiring and it's a big change for the Jazz. And, you know, bringing somebody in who's kind of doing that similar role for the Celtics and bringing them to Utah it's a big change. The Jazz don't usually get those types of hires to come their direction. Usually it goes the other way. So I think in that sense, it's a big deal. As far as the tanking goes, I just don't think the Jazz had an appetite to repeat what happened last year. I don't think they liked how the players felt, how the coaching staff felt, certainly how the fans felt. I don't think the front office liked it. So I don't think they're saying they're going to win more games next year. Probably more than 17, but probably not a lot more than 25. But I just don't think they liked the way they had to go about it to get those 17 wins. So I think probably another high lottery pick again next season, but it's not going to feel the same way.
Well, certainly he's going to have a lot of say in the decisions that are coming up here in the NBA draft later this month. The Jazz still on the board for 2 first-round draft picks. We talked a little bit about it last week, what they could potentially do here in the top 5. One name that I don't think would have popped up on the radar a month or so ago is the first one I think we want to talk about here, Con Knippel. Could he potentially be that 5th pick?
Yeah, if he's still on the board. You know, I think there's a chance he goes even higher than that. Con Knippel was certainly overshadowed at Duke by Cooper Flagg. If Cooper Flagg wasn't there, I think we might be talking about Con Knippel as the ACC Player of the Year.
So number 5 for him, that's not necessarily a stretch then, right?
No, I don't think so at all. I understand why, you know, if you were looking at mock drafts maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, he was probably around, 8 to 12. But I think he's going to be in that conversation at 5 very firmly.
Okay, well, one guy, you talk about him being maybe the best shooter in the draft. A lot of people are saying this next guy is maybe the best scorer in the draft, Trey Johnson.
Yeah, Trey Johnson led the SEC in scoring as a freshman, 19.9 points per game, and that's unheard of. You know, the SEC was the best basketball conference last year, and he was great. And Texas made the tournament. They weren't a very good team. Some of it is his fault. Some of it's not his fault. But when you look at the ability to make star shots, which is, off the dribble, step back threes, it doesn't matter if he's being defended very tightly or if he's coming off of a screen. The second that window opens, and it doesn't need a big window, the ball is going to go in. So he's a great shooter. If Con Knippel's not the best shooter, Trey Johnson certainly is. And in that sense, he would give the Jazz value. Where Con Knippel doesn't create his own shot off the dribble, Trey Johnson really does. And the Jazz have been overly reliant on Keontae George and Jordan Clarkson to do some of that. And it's hurt their percentages, and it hurts the team percentages. So if you gave those options and those shots to Trey Johnson, late shot clock, late game, the Jazz three-point shooting percentage is going to go up, and you win games like that.
All right.
He's not a good defensive player. So if you want to see good defense, you're not going to get it with Trey Johnson.
Yeah, that's something the Jazz have wanted in years past for sure, is a defense at that guard position. All right. Ben, it's been fun. Let's do it again next week. Why not, right?
I'll be here.
Okay, thanks a lot. All right, there will be no Triple Crown winner in horse racing this year. After taking the Kentucky Derby, Sovereignty did not run in the Preakness. But this weekend, the Rose-winning horse is back on the track, competing in the final leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes in New York. Now, this was the 157th running of the Belmont Stakes. Sovereignty came in with 2-1 odds. The favorite at the race's start, Journalism, the winner of the Preakness, had 8-5 odds. And it was those two horses that had the tight finish at the Kentucky Derby did it once again today. The outcome of this race came down to Journalism and Sovereignty, and that is Sovereignty kicking past Journalism down the stretch to win the 2025 Belmont Stakes. The Utah Mammoth, they hit the jackpot at the NHL draft lottery just last month, and they'll have the 4th overall pick in the upcoming draft. What can they do with that pick? KSL Sports Utah Mammoth insider Cole Bagley will hop on set to talk about some of the top prospects that could end up being taken by the Mammoth. That is coming up next. And Utah is home to maybe the greatest high school distance runner our country has ever seen. I'll show you what Jan Hedegren did this past week on the track and why she's so great. That's next.
David. Now Wallman. Wallman shoots. Puck is loose. Score! Score! Corey Perry! Ahead for Marchand. Moving in on Skinner. Marchand it's in. He scores! Marchand wins game 2 for the Panthers in double overtime.
Another Stanley Cup Finals thriller. 2 games, 2 absolute great contests. The Panthers tying this series up at a game apiece with the win. So let's keep this hockey talk, this hockey momentum going with KSL Sports Utah Mammoth insider Cole Bagley. All right, Cole, 2 games in this final so far, and they have absolutely delivered the excitement, both needing extra time to decide a winner. Give us your thoughts on these first couple of games.
Well,
This has been a great series.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that we've got the 2 best teams in the world going toe-to-toe. And it's interesting because they play a very different style of game, right? You've got the speed and finesse of the Oilers. You've got the bully-style hockey of the Panthers. And, you know, there's really no space, to separate these 2 teams. It's 1-1. And, of course, you saw that ending overtime forced there in the last minute. And then Marchand, of all people, to score the game winner. This is an incredible series, perhaps the best Stanley Cup final we've had in maybe a decade or more.
Give us 5 more of these games. Yes. I think a lot of hockey fans would be thrilled with that. All right, you know what else we're thrilled with? The NHL draft is now just about 3 weeks away, and Utah's still sitting there with that 4th overall pick. A lot to be excited about. We talked about a couple of options last week. Let's shift the focus this week to a couple of different players. First off, how about Boston College center James Higgins? At one point, he was thought to potentially be the number 1 pick in this draft, but he could be there at number 4.
Yeah, for sure. You know, he started the season off the consensus number 1 overall pick, but then he didn't have a bad season at Boston College, but he just wasn't quite to the level that I think a lot of teams and scouts were really anticipating. So he's dropped a little bit. There is a big potential that he could be there at 4, and if he is, and Utah decides to make him a Mammoth, there's no reason to dislike that. He is arguably the best playmaker in the draft. His vision, his handles, the way that he's able to enter the offensive zone, and then his skating is simply elite. So that's a player that Utah would definitely be excited to have if they choose that's who they want to go with. And he's been compared to Jack Hughes, and there's even been some comparisons to Logan Cooley. So wouldn't be a bad thing to have 2 Logan Cooleys on your team.
Feels like these guys out of college may be a little more NHL ready too. Is that accurate, or?
It just kind of depends. A lot of guys will get drafted and then go back to the juniors or go back to college. It's mostly dependent on, are they at the level of the physicality and the speed? I think a guy like James Hagan definitely is up to the level of the speed physically. I don't know if he's quite there yet.
Yeah.
He's just barely 18 years old, so we'll see how he develops. But an exciting prospect nonetheless.
All right, another prospect that could be there on the radar for the Utah Mammoth. How about Brady Martin, a center in the Ontario Hockey League? He's seen his stock rise quite a bit lately. He's a Canadian farm boy who plays so well, he doesn't even have to work out in the offseason. Take a listen.
I just work on the farm. I obviously train a bit, but yeah, no, I haven't got too into hockey training. I'm more just kind of farm strong is what they call it, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of how I grew up and put on a lot of strength and muscle.
How do you not like this guy? Farm strong, I love it.
Yeah, if you guys watch that full clip, he talks about they've got, thousands of chickens and pigs and cows. I mean, how do you not fall in love with a kid like that? And this is a guy whose stock has really gone up over the last week at the combine. And some scouts and reporters are even saying that Utah very well may pick this kid at number 4. And what I like about him and what a lot of people like about him is he's got a really high motor. On both ends of the ice, he's got a complete game. He goes hard to the net. He battles in the crease, and he has got an absolutely lethal shot. A lot of people say it is very, very close to being NHL ready, whether it's a snapshot, a wrist shot, or a slapper. It is absolutely lethal from any spot on the ice. So he's a guy to definitely keep an eye on, someone that Utah very well could be trending towards taking with that 4th overall selection.
What is it that you think stood out that's kind of propelled his stock upwards?
He fits the mold of what Bill Armstrong is looking for right now. You know, when you think about what they've done over the last month or so, they're just getting bigger. And this is a guy that helps them not necessarily get a lot bigger, but a lot more physical. You know, they need size and they need scoring. And that's what, you know, I think Martin really offers in the draft, is a guy that's, you know, has a lot of potential. There's been some comparisons to Sam Bennett, which is always a good name, or Matthew Nyes of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So an exciting prospect who's gaining a lot of traction right now and is looking pretty good to the Mammoth, according to a lot of people.
Okay, a lot to be excited about, a lot to look forward to between now and 3 weekends from now for the NHL Draft. Cole, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Let's go back to the big leagues now, where the Reds were hosting the Diamondbacks. This was a game that was delayed due to rain on Friday night. It continued on Saturday in the 10th inning. That's where Christian Encarnacion Strand, he hit the game-tying homer last night. Today, how about the walk-off hero with the double to center field? The Reds win the game 4-3. This is their first walk-off win of the season. The Atlanta Braves were facing the San Francisco Giants. Top 5, Braves down 1. Michael Harris II rocks a 423-foot homer to tie things up at 1. Bottom 9, Giants now down 2-1. Matt Chapman, 2-run walk-off to left, and the Giants get the win there, 3-2. All right, she has run the indoor mile, the outdoor 2-mile, the indoor and outdoor 5,000 meter faster than any other girls' high school runner in the history of our country. And she's just not setting new records. She's crushing records, some by as many as 30 seconds. Now, 18-year-old Jane Hedegren from Timpview High School added another record, smashing run to her list this past week on Thursday at the Hoka Festival of Miles. Hedegren ran the mile in a time of 4:23.50 seconds, beating the previous national high school record by nearly 5 seconds. And it was 6 seconds faster than the women's professional race that took place later in that evening, or earlier in the evening, I should say. After the race, Hedegren confessed that the mile, that's not even her best discipline.
You know, I don't run the mile very often, so it was really special to come out here tonight.
4:23.50, US U20 record for Jane Hedegren.
Love the experience, great crowds. So yeah, just coming into the race with an open mind, childlike belief, and just ready to go smash it and have some fun.
She looks like she's having a lot of fun. Well, you know, a lot is at stake tonight on the rugby pitch as well. The Utah Warriors, they've already clinched a spot in the Major League Rugby playoffs, but tonight they can clinch the top overall seed. I'll explain how next. Warriors have won 10 of their 15 games on the season, and they've already clinched a spot in the Major League Rugby playoffs. But tonight, they can do one better. They can lock up the number 1 seed and home field advantage throughout if they get the win. The Warriors will wrap up the regular season on the road against RFC Los Angeles, a team that is just behind Utah in the Western Conference standings. How about this? Tonight, a win by the Warriors, of course, will secure the number 1 seed in the West for the playoffs. But as you look at the standings here, LA just 3 points behind Utah. The way it works in Major League Rugby, a win gives the team 4 points in the standings. A draw is worth 2 points. So tonight's contest means LA has to win to jump ahead of Utah. That one starting at 7 o'clock tonight. All right, you know, not all athletes can throw. Former NFL football player Taylor Lewan, he proved that on the baseball diamond. We'll show you this again next. 9 seasons in the NFL as a lineman for the Tennessee Titans. He's strong, he's athletic, but can he throw? Oh, man. He was given the ball to throw out the first pitch at the Cardinals game, and it did not end well. Tough luck, Taylor. Maybe next time.